Hello, everyone, and welcome to Body Bags. I'm your reviewer. I'm Lonnie I'm starting my new channel, Terror Tats, and hopefully you'll check it out. I got a couple of videos on there, and hopefully it's going to get a lot better. So, yeah, if you can get a chance, check it out. Hopefully, maybe you might want to subscribe. Also, too, what do you think? Got a brand new camera, and hopefully the videos are going to start looking a lot better quality-wise. So, let's go ahead and get into it. This week is theme week, and yeah, the theme this week is alternative cuts. Movies that have longer cuts, shorter cuts, everything else. And been seeing some really good stuff this week. And the one that I decided to go with, this is a movie I actually been wanting to review on the channel for some time, and for whatever reason, I just kept putting it off and thinking of other things, never got around to it. So I'm glad I'm finally able to go ahead and get this one out of the way. The movie is from, let's see here, 2004, and it is Wolf Creek. Now, this is a movie I really do enjoy, and I honestly urge everybody to see it. And not only this, if you haven't seen it, I strongly recommend check it out. There's also a really great sequel, Wolf Creek 2. I've heard through the rumor mill that supposedly, they're getting ready to work on Wolf Creek 3. And then there was the TV series. I saw season 1. I think there was a season 2, but I haven't seen it. But anyway, hopefully we're going to get more Wolf Creek coming, and I'm definitely going to be in line for that. For those of you who don't know, the story is about... the story takes place in Australia, around the Australian outback, and we have the movie is very loosely based. Okay, you know how Texas Chainsaw Massacre was loosely based on Ed Gein. This movie or series of movies is loosely based on the Australian serial killer. Sorry, I just got off work. I'm a little tired. Australian serial killer Ivan Milat. He also went by the name the Backpacker Killer or the Backpacker Murderer. He had murdered 7 victims, and he just he recently, I think it was a couple of years ago, he died in prison. But good riddance to him. The movie is loosely based on his exploits, and our story concerns 2 vacationing tourists from England, London. Lizzie and Kestie, and they come to Australia and they meet up with Ben, and there's a little bit of a love triangle. It doesn't really go much of anywhere. It starts out that it turns out that Lizzie has a crush on Ben, and she's really wanting to hook up with him, but I think it's unbeknownst to Lizzie that Ben and Kestie actually had a fling. But once it's kind of revealed that Lizzie really wants to, have a relationship with Ben, Kestie just kind of backs away and tells Ben, just be good to her, treat her right, don't break her heart, that kind of thing. Well, so anyway, so these 2 girls are talking about they want to go sightseeing. They want to see some of the big, monuments and things that is in Australia. And Ben, he gets a car, and the 3 of them pack into this car, and they start driving around, and they go sightseeing. They're looking at different things, and at one point, they decide that they want to go look at the Wolf Creek National, kind of like National Forest, National Park. That if I remember correctly, it was like a site where like a meteor landed or something like that. I'm sorry, it's been a little bit since I've seen the movie. I probably should have got off my ass and watched the movie again before I did the review, huh? But anyway, so they get out there and they spend the day there, and they're just kind of looking around, sightseeing, having a good time. Ben and Lizzie kind of solidified their burgeoning relationship. And they just spend the day there, have a good time. But when they're ready to leave, they're having trouble. Their car won't start, and so they figure, well, we're pretty much, way too far to walk to get anywhere, so they figure they're stuck there. So they're all kind of camped out inside the car and, getting ready to stay for the night. And, a truck comes along, and it turns out the driver of the truck is, an Australian native named Mick Taylor. Now, Mick Taylor, played by John Jarratt, he has kind of a, on the back of the box of the DVD, it does a great job of explaining. It said, he's, kind of like a cross between Crocodile Dundee and Freddy Krueger. And that is kind of a perfect way to describe his character. Well, anyway, so Mick, he starts off very friendly, and he's joking and everything. I mean, he kind of like, you could tell he's, he has a little bit of a sadistic side, he's like kind of always like getting his little jabs in at the three kids. But he appears to be like trying to help them out and stuff. And so he's telling them, I'll look at your car, we'll see if we can get you going. So he's looking at the car, and he goes to the kids, and he tells them, your coil's messed up, and he's like, there is some good news for you though. However, he's like, I can fix your car, and I have to tow you back to my camp, and but I tow you back to my camp, I'll take the coil out, put a new one in, you're good to go. Well, the three, they kind of discuss it, and they're not really sure. They're afraid that like Mick is gonna want money and everything, and so Ben goes to him and tries to explain this. Look, sorry, it's like, it's not that we don't want your help, it's just we don't have much money to pay you. He's like, well, I'm not going to charge you, and so they kind of like, he kind of manages to get them to go along with it. So Mick, he hooks up their car to his truck, and he tows them back to his camp, and it's taking a long time. Well, the kids, they start to get really nervous, and they're it's kind of unsettling. It seems like they're driving for a really, really, really long time, and they're really going further and further out of, into the middle of nowhere and everything. And one thing that this movie really does really well is it does create a hell of a sense of isolation, like just really being stuck in the middle of nowhere, no way to get out, things like that. So they get back to Mick's quote-unquote camp, which turns out to be an abandoned, kind of like a mining facility, and turns out he basically just kind of found this place and just decided to take up residence in it and stuff. And so they're having a good time, and they're talking and everything else, and we find out through Mick's dialogue and everything that he really has a disdain for tourists. He does not like tourists. He's very territorial. He talks about, he's telling the kids about how he works for farmers and things like this. And, he's like kind of like a shooter. He goes around, he shoots like kangaroos and stuff. And I mean, of course, the kids are kind of upset by this, but he tells them like, well, it's like you're kind of doing them a service, because, like taking out a few roos, because you can end up with overpopulation. There's just not enough food for them to all eat, and so they're all gonna basically starve to death. So it's kind of doing them a mercy. But anyway, so they're talking and everything, and Mick finally decides he's gonna go ahead and start fixing their car. And so our three travelers, they're exhausted at this point. None of them can stay awake, and they just all zonk out. Well, now we're with Lizzie. Lizzie wakes up, and we find out that she's been tied up, and she's trying to get loose. And we realize that Mick is actually a serial killer, and it's not really. It's kind of hinted at, but it's never really like spelled out. But you kind of wonder if like something actually happened to their car, like their car just stopped working, or it kind of makes you wonder if when they were at the Wolf Creek, site looking around and stuff, if maybe Mick had, because it is clear, it is found out later in the movie that, yeah, Mick was kind of stalking them and checking them out and all this kind of stuff. So you kind of wonder if like Mick, messed with their car to, and sabotaged it. But anyway, so it turns out that, Lizzie comes across she finds Kestie, and Mick is not only is Mick a murderer, but he's also a rapist, and he's terrorizing Kestie and just saying horrible things to her and abusing her, sexually assaulting her, things like this. And so, and then Ben has also been abducted and kind of held off. And basically, like with Ben, he's kind of like in something like a cave, and he's been kind of like impaled, and he's kind of stuck there, and he's there are these cages with dogs, kind of keeping an eye on him and stuff. And so Lizzie, without giving too much more away, Lizzie has to use her wits and her strength and everything to try to see if she can save her friends and defeat Mick and try to get away. And we'll just go ahead and we'll leave it at that. I don't want to give it away or anything, but I really like this movie. I think that all the actors do a great job. The performances are solid. John Jarratt as Mick Taylor is phenomenal. He is so good. He's like I said, I'm really hoping that we are going to get a Wolf Creek 3, because I would really like to see, we have our horror icons. We have Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers, etc. But I would like to see new horror icons emerge. And personally, I think Mick Taylor, is unique, especially that he's from Australia, and that his thing is he hates tourists, and he's very territorial about the Australian outback and his area, and he doesn't like people going into his area, his territory, and he's going to kill to keep them out, and he feels he's doing a service by keeping Australia beautiful, and by taking out all these tourists that he feels are coming in and kind of ruining his area, polluting it, and so on, and things like this. And just in his overall look, his demeanor, everything about him, I think honestly he is great for a new breed of horror icon. And like I said, it's unique and everything else. So I really do hope that Wolf Creek is great. Wolf Creek 2 is phenomenal as well. I really enjoyed season 1 of the Wolf Creek TV series, and I really do. I hope we can get more Wolf Creek. I really do. And I hope that one day we can put Mick Taylor up there with Freddy and Jason and Leatherface and Michael Myers, etc., etc. Okay, now we got to get to the part where we talk about the alternative cut. There wasn't really that much cut out of the movie for the theatrical release. Now, here I have the unrated version, but I have seen the rated version, and basically there was one section in the movie that was cut out, and it's tricky, because in this one scene you kind of understand both sides of the story. You understand why it was cut out, but then you understand why it was reinstated for the home video release. And the scene, okay, there's a part where Lizzie and Kestie, they're trying to get away from Mick, and there's a car chase, and Lizzie decides, they come to a cliff, and so Lizzie decides that they're going to push the truck off the cliff and hide, to try to make it seem like that they went, they were in the truck and the truck went over the cliff, and that Mick would be distracted, and then they can get out of there. Well, the scene that was cut out was Lizzie decides she's going to go back to Mick's camp because they need a vehicle. And because they're stuck way the hell in the middle of nowhere in the Australian outback, so they need some kind of transportation to get them out of there. So Lizzie goes back, and she's in his camp, and she's looking around, and she's kind of looking around, and she's just like checking everything, and she sees kind of like I kind of want to say like a shaft or something like that, and so she decides to investigate it, and she falls, and she realizes that this is where Mick has been disposing of the bodies of his victims and stuff. This is these worm-infested, rotting corpses and things like this. And so then she goes and she's like looking around in some of the warehouses and stuff, and he's got these cars, and he's got like all this stuff. He's got like boxes of like camcorders and things like that. He's got like their jewelry. He's got like like a board with like all the driver's licenses and and IDs of all of his victims and things like this. So we find out Mick is very much into keeping trophies of his victims and things like this. So and then eventually she looks for a set of keys, and she goes and gets a car. I understand why the scene was put back into the movie, because it's trying to set up how Mick runs his operation. Like, what is he, when he kills people, what does he do with their bodies? What does he do with the stuff? Everything else, trying to answer questions, kind of giving you an idea of how the minutia of how the entire thing works. Okay, so I understand that aspect of it. I also understand too why it was cut out, because the part of the movie where this scene is inserted is a part where it really, really, hinders the flow and the speed of the film. Because when this scene occurs in the movie, you're watching it, you really start to get irritated with Lizzie. And Lizzie, is a very likable, very relatable character. But here's the problem: you're getting so agitated because the whole point is like Mick could be coming back at any minute. There's a lot of tension, there's a lot of suspense, and you get mad at Lizzie because you're watching this and you're like, just get the, oh, for God's sake, woman, just find some damn keys, get the car, get the hell out of there. Why do you have to, what the F, man? Why do you have to keep just looking around? Why do you gotta stop and look at every little thing? So it's kind of like, you understand like why the scene was cut out, but then why it was put back in for the theatrical release, or for the video release. But it really does interrupt the flow of the movie. Like, in my opinion, like it should have been, something like this should have been done like when Lizzie is first, when she first wakes up and realizes that they've been taken hostage by Mick, and then kind of like gradually like find these things out, and she starts piecing everything together as she attempts to try to find Kestie and Ben and try to save them. It's like, it seemed like it should have been there. It's just kind of like where this section in the part of the movie where it's placed, it doesn't fit well, especially when you're where time is of the essence, and you're kind of like, woman, stop looking around at all, stop looking at all this jewelry, and stop looking at all these camcorders, and stop doing, stop farting around, just get the keys and get the car and get the hell out of there. So it makes sense, but so it is a little bit of a bother, but other than that, though, that's pretty much about it. I mean, the movie is not overly gory. It does have violence in it. There's quite a bit of blood in it and stuff, but it's not overly gory. But anyway, yeah, I would definitely recommend it. Check out Wolf Creek, and I would say, I can understand why the scene was cut. But anyway, I've said that I don't know how many times already, but that's pretty much going to do it. I strongly recommend Wolf Creek, and anyway, that's pretty much about it. So if anybody took the time to watch this, I thank you for doing it. I appreciate you for doing it. I honestly hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave it a like. If you haven't already, go and subscribe to the Body Bags channel, and hopefully you might want to subscribe to my channel, Terror Tats, and that's it. I'm now the Saturday reviewer, used to be the Friday reviewer. We have different guys, one for every day of the week. Everybody's doing great stuff, and there's more to come. We have theme weeks and label weeks and this and that, all kinds of good stuff. So that's it, everybody. So take care, have a good night, and I'll see you later.